Kings, queens, and in-betweens, welcome back to another edition of City Boys Extra Time. My name is Jacob, and as always, welcoming back Grayson because he was not here last week, but I am joined by two of my best friends. Grayson, how are we doing?
I'm doing good. It is good to be back. I am feeling better, feeling a little bit more refreshed. It was a beautiful day out. We got a beautiful match day, beautiful match weekend, weekend of games for us. Uh, Great for everybody involved, except for those who took some L's this weekend. But hey, it ain't me. So
Yeah, we personally cannot relate. Our team took a dub this weekend, but there was a lot of action around the MLS weekend. I'm here in the corner this time, and I am ready to cover it with you guys. It's a very exciting weekend in the MLS.
A lot happened. A lot of Eastern Conference, Interconference, not a ton of Western Conference games, but I say we kick it off with the Eastern Conference. What do we think, boys?
Let's do it.
yeah, let's go ahead and get it popping. We did have some pretty fun Eastern Conference matchups this week. So let's go ahead and hop into the first one. First matchup of the Eastern Conference for Matchday 3 brought us to Atlanta, where they hosted the MLS Cup runner-up, the New York Red Bulls. The Red Bulls would control most of the match, but Atlanta would see most of the quality chances of the game. This matchup would end 0-0 thanks to some match-saving heroics from Atlanta's goalkeeper Carlos Miguel. I think he had about 6 saves, but he earns himself man of the match in this 0-0 game. It was, pretty exciting for a 0-0 matchup. I think this game shows that Atlanta and the Red Bulls are both pretty high quality teams that are still need a little bit more time to gel and grow into it. The Red Bulls, of course, have a little bit more time. They had most of this team last year, of course, adding pretty pretty awesome firepower up top in Eric Choupo-Moting,
Yes.
I don't think he scored. I don't know if he scored in the first two match
First
weeks,
shot.
so
Yeah.
he's still looking for his first goal. But yeah, pretty decent matchup there. Uh, Go ahead and move on to the next one. Not too much to talk about with that, but we got Cincy versus Toronto. We got a new look Cincinnati coming up against a reorganized Toronto, and it ends in a 2-0 smacking. And Cincy looked to open the scoring pretty early by Yuya Kubo, who assisted himself off of the bottom post, and it would eventually get ruled out due to a very soft foul call on their center back, super soft. And they would also have another one canceled out later, another one for Kubo, canceled out for an offsides, but they would later get assisted opening the scoring by a handball. And Kevin Denke continues his strong form to start his MLS career and his season with Cincy so far as he buries the pen to the bottom left corner. Pretty easy. And the entire match, Cincy's passage of play really allowed for smooth, quick counterattacks, and they would finally score on one of those counterattacks late in the match in the 87th minute. Yuya Kubo doesn't let VAR rule out this one, and he finally slots in his first goal of the season, making it 2-0. Cincy, what do you guys think about this game?
You
I know,
know,
I'm sorry.
No, I just thought going into the season that Cincy was going to be a contender, despite losing Luciano Acosta, which would be a massive blow to any team. But I've been expecting to see Kevin Denke do his thing, and I think it was a really very wise of them to let him take the penalty and just see the ball hit the back of the net. I expect more big performances from him this season.
I agree with that, Ethan. Also, I think for FC Cincinnati and Cincinnati fans, this is a result that is expected. So, earning 3 points from this matchup, it does feel good, but it's just a check mark on the list of things that they need to do, and really gives them the confidence as a team going forward to just keep stringing wins back to back to back.
Yep. And of course, that last goal is showing Evander's quality as he keeps growing into this team and his making his presence known. So definitely one to watch as the season carries on. He's a baller. Moving on to the next match, high flying Philly continues their win streak with a 2-0 dub over the Revolution, who are yet to get their gears turning. Goals coming from Ty Baribo. I'm
Again,
announcing Golden Boot watch right now.
Wow.
Six goals in his first three matches of the season. That is tying the MLS record for most goals in the first three matches of the season. So,
Unreal.
yeah, assisted by, oh, I actually have no idea who assisted that goal.
I think
But,
he's currently on pace for what 68 if he keeps up this run.
bro, you are not Erling Haaland. We will see. We'll see. Ty Revo is flying very high, and he's got a lot of creators around him. So I have no doubts he will be able to keep this form going throughout the season. But we will see just how high he gets. We will
Yeah.
see.
I don't
We
know.
will
Could
see.
Philly have a 20 goal scorer on their hands?
I think they do. I think they do.
We shall
But
see.
yeah. So 1-0. And yeah, the Revolution held that game pretty late. Honestly, the 2-0 score line really doesn't give the Revolution a lot of credit because they did hold them off for a long time. Uh, oh yeah, that's who assisted. It was of course Kai Wagner, the left back, who had in a crazy amount of assists for Philly last season, just already out here assisting again. And then 96th minute, great passing in the 18-yard box leads to our former lad Indiana Vasilev with the ball at his feet, laying it off to Lukic, who rockets it top corner for one of our nominations for goal of the week. Pretty solid stuff there. Just once again shows that Philly are one to watch. Definitely a scary team on the rankings, the team rankings so far. I think they are definitely contenders. And two more games. I got NYCFC versus Orlando. This is an interesting one for the storylines because these clubs are basically twins. They both joined the MLS in 2015, and both of their inaugural matches were against each other. So this is a replay of that match from Matchday 1 in 2015. That match ended 1-1 thanks to a late goal from Kaka.
Wow,
Come on. Come on.
what a pull!
Yeah. And now both of these teams are way less star-studded. Of course, there's no more Frank Lampard, no more David Villa, no more Pirlo in these lineups. But you do have Marco Pasalic. You've got a couple ballers in here. You still got Maxi Morales, who is on that team in NYCFC in 2015. He's still here, still
10
doing it.
years later.
I know, insane. But this matchup would end with some late drama. It would go 1-1 throughout the match, and then late drama would come with a red card from the perfectly named O'Toole, trying to hold on to a 2-1 win, which they would. So NYCFC gets the dub this time. Luis Muriel gets the consolation goal for Orlando. He had a pretty decent game, but really, Orlando really couldn't do much besides counterattack in this matchup. And probably one of the more interesting games from this week was Miami versus Charlotte. This is my last game for the Eastern Conference. This was the Sunday Sunday of soccer blockbuster matchup right before the LA Galaxy St. Louis City game, and Wilfried Zaha's Charlotte versus a Messiless Miami. And this was a good game. 37th minute, beautiful ball over the top, connects with Zaha, who's chopped down by the Miami goalkeeper. It was always going to be a red card. Zaha's through. He's getting a goal out that every time. But keeper takes the red. Miami goes man down early on in the game. But Allende, beautiful work, runs down the field, brings it down, link up play with Suarez, takes it down off the chest and volleys with precision to the bottom right corner to make it 1-0. Surprising 1-0. And credit to Miami for being able to defend for most of the match and hold strong, something that Miami is not known for. So they're adding a different aspect to their game. It could be very interesting going forward. So yeah, what you got, Jacob?
A little wrinkle in that, while I do agree they're not known for holding on at the end, a little wrinkle in matches where they have had a red card, they've only lost one of them, and they've had 5 matches with a red card, and they've won 3, drawn 1, and lost 1. So I'd make the argument they're probably better at playing a man down to keep on to a victory than they are with a full 11.
Yeah, when they lost that man, they're very, very defensive minded, and that's not how Miami plays. When they have 11 players, they're forward. They're attacking every time. So,
Well, they had to make an immediate sub as well. They took off Benjamin Kormeski, and when you don't have Messi on the field, I thought that he was going to be one of the pillars of their attack this season. So leaving out Suarez and Allende just showed a lot of belief, and Inter Miami still are very much contending and at the top of the league.
yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at the table after match day 3. Of course, Miami and Columbus drop points, and that pushes Perfect Philly 2 points clear at the top.
Nuts.
At the other end of the spectrum here, we've got New England, Toronto, and Montreal still looking for their first wins of the season. Montreal still looking for their very first points of the season. Good luck to you guys.
Yeah, it's a wild table when you look at it. When we did our spotlights in the offseason, looking at Philadelphia, definitely would not have been my pick to be top of the table after 3 match days.
They're ballers, man. Under Bradley Carnell's tutelage.
Yeah. And then
Hot start.
I would say Inter Miami, Columbus, Cincinnati, all that makes sense. DC United is off to a hotter run than I had expected them to be on. Charlotte with a turnaround year. New York Red Bulls still not finding their form. And then you've got Chicago basically smack dab in the middle of the standings right now in the Eastern Conference, which I think if you would have asked a Chicago fan in the offseason, 8th after 3 match days, they'd have taken it and run with it.
I think they would have, no doubt. The new manager, they're not in dead last, and now they've actually gotten off the mark this match. And boys, I can't think of a better segue into the Chicago Fire versus, or I guess it's Dallas versus Chicago, the Brimstone Cup, boys. Did you all know about this? Because I had no idea about this literally until game day.
MLS lore.
It makes the MLS a more fun league to watch. I don't care what anyone says, and there's nothing like it over in Europe that I am aware of, at least. So the Brimstone Cup is the game between Dallas and Chicago. There's a trophy exchange between fans. Chicago put a dent in the trophy back in 2011. That's very Chicagoan of them. I can't lie as a St. Louis fan, but I'm going into this game. I thought Dallas was going to take it easily, and actually Chicago would pick up the first win of the GGG era. A snooze fest of the first half would give way into the floodgates opening in the second half. Peter Musa would have a goal disallowed in the 12th minute, but nothing that really swung the game in either team's direction in the first half. In the second half, Dallas would get us going with maybe the P-rolliest goal of them all. The tap around the goalkeeper would fall into the net for Logan Farrington, and we would have to wait all the way until the 82nd minute for Chicago to get onto the score sheet, but they would. Gutman would get them off the mark with a lovely assist from Hugo Kuipers. If you have not got the chance to watch his highlights this season already, go ahead and do that. Hugo Kuipers has been producing for Chicago and is on fire right now. Another new name for the Fire, Leandro Barroso, would then make his MLS debut and get off the mark. The player from Sporting Lisbon comes over to the MLS and makes a big impact in match day 1, getting the game-winning goal in the Brimstone Cup for Chicago. Puts it away in, I want to say, the 84th minute, barely 120 seconds later after Gutman found the back of the net. Wow. So Chicago went pretty much back-to-back to take the 3 points into their own hands. For good measure, Hugo Kuipers put away a penalty kick in added time to steal the victory. I hate to say it because I don't like Greg Berhalter, but a fairly good victory for the Chicago Fire. An all-in-all resilient team that showed attacking threats throughout the game. I think they absorbed the Dallas pressure from Musa and Acosta and really produced some special moments. We'll move a little bit back in time and go to the kickoff of match day 3, Columbus versus Houston. Houston would go into Columbus and actually manage a point. Going into this game, I thought that Columbus would be taking care of business pretty easily, but they had a fantastic chance to make it 1-0 before halftime, but Houston's goalkeeper would come up huge. I think the story of this game is really sloppy play from both sides. I saw bad turnovers that led to yellow cards that would, because they had to snuff out a chance right away. You know the makeup fouls that I'm talking about, boys. We've all been
tactical fouls.
Yeah. Hey, it's a professional sport. You know, they put in the professional fouls from time to time. It's a business decision. We get it. I will say Columbus looked the better side, but Houston seemed to be slowly figuring it out. I think having a new look midfield with Jack McGlynn and Artur really anchoring those pivot roles has made it a challenge for them to gel. I think that Houston will get there, though. Next, we're going to go into DC United versus Sporting Kansas City, my favorite hate watch of the weekend, because DC United would take a 2-1 victory. I will give a little bit of credit to Sporting Kansas City, though, because honestly, Pulskamp is not a bad goalkeeper. That's pretty much about as much credit as I can give Sporting Kansas City at the moment, as other than Jake Davis, they are basically lacking all over the place. It looks like a team lacking desire, lacking passion, lacking good tactics, everything. And that's, I know it's coming from a Sporting St. Louis fan, but I mean this without hyperbole. They have got to figure it out. Benteke seems to be carrying on last season's form with ease, Grayson. I always think about you when I watch Christian Benteke play. But other than Christian Benteke, the rest of the DC United offense seems to be falling victim to the early season jitters or just figuring it out. And honestly, before last night or before Sunday night, I would have said the same about St. Louis City SC. So it could just take one game for DC United to figure it out. However, Sporting Kansas City would actually take the lead in the 53rd minute against the run of play. We clown on them a lot, so I will say this was probably the best run of play that they've had all season. Eric Tommy he finished a good goal. Jake Davis made a good underlapping run from their outside back. I just don't have a lot of good to say about Sporting Kansas City. Benteke would bring DC level at the hour mark from the penalty spot. He might have a good pace for goals this season, Grayson.
I think we will see.
I think the biggest takeaway that I got from this game is that STLSC fan favorite Jose Kahima would make a return to the City Boys podcast and bring DC in front And Grayson's pulling out the suits. Just 7 minutes later, he would open his account for DC United off a long throw, a header goal for Jose Kahima.
Who knew? He's got it
I
in his bag.
I
He can do
mean,
anything.
he really can. He really can. I rate him so highly. Moving into my second last game of the weekend, Nashville versus Portland. If you missed this game, you did not miss much, frankly. These are two teams searching for an identity and a talisman early on in the season. I think on paper, it's easy to expect Sam Surridge or Hani Mukhtar to fill that role for Nashville, or Kevin Kelsey for Portland. However, things just have not really panned out that way. This game had a blast of the first 17 minutes, though, I will say. Portland would give away a penalty from their captain early on in the game, I think just the 4th minute. Hani Mukhtar, former MVP, steps up to take it, but Zach Pantemis would make a penalty kick save in Geddes Park. Unbelievable stuff. If you're an away goalkeeper, this is the stuff of dreams. You're away, the home fans are giving it to you, and what do? You step up and show the former MVP where his ball belongs on the other side of the net. Really good stuff from Pantemis there.
Almost as good as a save as Sketch's PK save from the weekend.
Almost.
Very debatable. But if there was any debate, Zach Pantemis would then put it to bed, because in the 15th minute, another penalty kick would be conceded. This time, though, Nashville has a different strategy. Let's send up Sam Surridge because, of course, we just had someone miss. His confidence is in the gutter, in the mud. Let's let someone else go for it. Sam Surridge steps up. The Englishman does his run up. Pantemis saves again. This is 2 penalty saves in the first 17 minutes of this game.
God.
Now Pantemis has saved the last 3 penalties that he's faced. Mind you, boys, we're talking about the backup goalkeeper for Portland. This is not even their regular starter. I can't remember. Zach Crepo is their regular starter, and he's injured at the moment. So Pantemis comes on, saves 3 penalties, and makes an impact. Unfortunately for Pantemis, their luck would run out just before the halftime whistle blew, as I believe it's Qasim would get a good finish into the far post there for his goal, and I believe to open up the scoring for Nashville this season. I mean, honestly, that's the last person I would have expected to get them off the mark this year.
I don't even know who that is, to be honest.
I mean, I think that says, oh, okay. I got the score wrong. Qasim would score later on in the game in the 68th minute. Andy Nahar, an MLS veteran of 10-plus years, would get his first goal in a long time. I don't know who that is either. I can't lie. That's a journeyman. But I do remember both Sacha Kljestan and Dax McCarty remarking that he was a fantastic teammate. So that makes him an MLS OG, because Sacha Kljestan, I don't think, played in the MLS past 2015. So that is, power to him. Moving into our last game, we're going to take it Nuff, boys, for Vancouver versus Montreal. We would get going in the 24th minute with some unfortunate news for Vancouver fans, because Ryan Gauld would actually exit the game with an injury. It didn't look great. I couldn't tell you how bad it is, and I'm not ready to speculate about it, but I can say that Ryan Gauld is the peanut butter to Brian White's jelly. They go together that well and have really changed things around in Vancouver. Currently, Vancouver sit top of the West on 9 points, undefeated, and maybe Vancouver fans predicted this, but I would not have predicted this. Bless you, brother. Our friends up north, though, would get us going in the 31st minute when our right back, gotta love the fullback union, when they scored. Laborda would use some smart defending off a corner kick. He, takes it off the clearance before it happens. You know, when the ball's bouncing up, he just pokes it away.
Okay.
And would put it right into the back of the net on the 6-yard box, just taking advantage of that chaos. And another fullback, the left back this time, Tate Johnson, would add the dagger for Vancouver in the 49th minute. Fortunately, not much to report from Montreal's side of things on from this match. I talked about him, I believe, in our first extra time. I think Prince Owusu is a very good attacking player for Montreal, but not nothing to show for it in this match. Think that does it for the interconference games this week, gentlemen. A whole lot going on, a whole lot of movement. But Jacob, you ready to finish us up in the West?
I would gladly take us into the West. First, though, I think if you're looking at these interconference matchups before the weekend, most of the results go the way you'd think, except for the Dallas-Chicago game and probably the Columbus-Houston game. Those two results surprised me when I saw them. It's like, wow, Chicago beat FC Dallas. I rate Dallas higher than Chicago. And then Houston, with all their turmoil of not knowing who they are, getting out of Columbus with a point. Very surprising, but
Impressive.
also makes the league that much more fun that these teams can get results against teams that are arguably better than them.
Hmm? It's the beauty of the MLS. It's anyone's game, except for Kansas City's. So.
So far this season. Them in Portland, man, they are struggling this year.
Not a ton to report out of the Western Conference, but for the games that did take place between Western Conference teams, there were some crazy score lines. The second game of the weekend was a banger. I don't know if everyone was able to see it, but if you weren't, go back and watch the full match replay. It is one of those. Seattle beating LAFC 5-2. There are
Banger.
plenty of headlines you could pull from this game. Just a couple of them. Jordan Morris becoming the top all-time goal scorer for Seattle with 87 goals.
Wow. That's wild.
I mean, Ty Baribo's on pace for 64 or 68 this year, so it's actually light work, I guess. Then you've got Tacoma Defiance loanee Kalani Kosa-Rienzi being loaned from Tacoma Defiance to Seattle, finding the back of the net, and that goal actually is what started the scoring for this match. The other not-so-great headline to take away from this game was that LAFC suffered a plethora of injuries throughout this game. Now, they have had a crazy start to the season with a lot of match congestion between the CONCACAF Champions Cup and the MLS regular season, so kind of hate to see that. It gives the argument for taking breaks for cups to take place. But dudes in England do it every single year, so there's the other argument. Then going to move into the Colorado-Austin FC game where Colorado beat Austin FC 1-0 with a beautiful goal from Rafa Navarro. Also making it into our Goal of the Week nominations, but that's really all to report from that match. Moving into the San Diego game, they get their second win of the season against RSL 3-1. This game was pretty close right up until the end. Peel for RSL scored in the 17th, and then San Diego waited all the way until the 43rd for Negri to equalize. And then two stoppage time goals come from Dreyer and Ingvartsen in order for San Diego to take 3 points from this match. Minnesota beat San Jose 1-0, only slightly slowing down the wagon that is San Jose right now. I do not expect this to be a slowed wagon for a while. Minnesota's goal scorer, though, was Kelvin Yeboah. You know
Baller.
He is your
Baller.
boy.
I will say, dude, Minnesota looked good against San Jose. San Jose, I would say, was on the front foot for longer in that match, but Minnesota is for sure a team to be weary of in the West.
I agree. I think Minnesota's that sneaky team where you don't really want to play them. On paper, you think you should get points, but it would not surprise me if they're constantly taking points off of arguably better teams. Okay. And then finally, the match we all enjoyed from this weekend, the very last Western Conference matchup of the match day and of the weekend altogether, Sunday Night Soccer. St. Louis City went into the defending champs LA Galaxy and scored 3 goals, continued their clean sheet streak of 3 clean sheets in 3 matches, finally got first goals of the season. One from Cedric Toyshirt, one from
Oh yeah.
Marcel Hartel, and my king Simon Betcher all scored. Boys, I guess my first question for you guys: which result from any of the conferences or from the entire weekend stood out to you guys the most?
Honestly, for me, I mean, you already praised this game a lot, but Seattle LAFC was crazy because Seattle hasn't had the greatest start to the season, but I thought they would be high flying. They brought in Jesus Ferreira, they brought in Paul Areola as well, and they already have some fantastic pieces on that team. I expected them to come out hot, and I think this game was their arrival. So I think Seattle
Mm.
will be a pretty decent team going forward. Just a little slow start to the season. And LAFC, already a great team, just a little stutter in this matchup, but I mean, I gotta say it again. David Martinez is the real deal. Kid is cold, ice cold. Got a little consolation goal from half field. That's definitely one. If you can go back and watch the match, definitely keep an eye out for that one because that was crazy goal.
I think this one was tough for LAFC because their match congestion. So they don't start Denny Bouanga because he played, I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday that week, and he had played in all of their previous matches to start the season. So there goes your best attacking threat. Olivier Giroud is not built for the MLS. To be fair, he's
It's
not,
so wild.
or
So
he's too old and not fast enough, and it doesn't really look like he cares to be on the field. He doesn't press. People literally dribble right next to him, and he puts in no effort to even try to poke the ball away. So, if I were LAFC, I'd try to get off that contract ASAP.
I will say, Jacob, to just be the devil's advocate to your argument that Seattle also played midweek
And
in the
they
in the same
performed way
competition.
better.
Way, way, way better. It's shocking. The teams from Los Angeles don't have it figured out at the moment. It's surprising. To answer your original question though, Jacob, other than St. Louis City, because of course that was a fantastic result, and I don't think many people expected that. I am actually going to go for San
Jacob
Diego
did.
FC over RSL because San Diego was picked by essentially everyone, and I will even say myself included, to be very bottom. I don't think anyone predicted them higher than 13th, and I didn't think that they would get off to a great start myself. Now here they are. They're 3 games in, 2 victories, one over the reigning champion, a draw against us. They look Anders Dreyer carrying an attack that was expected to be all Chucky Lozano. I don't know, boys. They might be a real contender in the West. I'm not 100% ready to solidify them in that position just yet, but I mean, 270 minutes of soccer later, I think people are feeling a lot differently than they were before match day 1 kicked off.
Yeah, I think everyone's been extremely hot and cold on San Diego. Everyone rated them extremely poorly, and then after match day one, everyone was like, San Diego's the best expansion side in MLS history. No, they're not. They're not that good.
They are
I
pretty
I
good,
don't
though.
I think they're good, but RSL is not a good team this year. I just they're not that great of a side this year. LA Galaxy, not that great of a side this year. And then a draw against St. Louis City, albeit a very positive draw on their end. So I do think they are a great team, but I'm not going to go crazy rating them super highly as like contenders or anything because we're only 3 match days in, um, and right now it has been pretty much all Dryer. Well, what happens when he slows down? Other players are going to have to step up,
Yeah, they're not
and
a very deep roster. Their
yeah.
No.
starting 11 is very strong, but once you get into their bench, the quality drops off. I'd say to your point, Grayson, it is going to be interesting to see when they do lose a game, how the team bounces back from that. Because,
Yeah.
like we talked about last week, I think you learn more from a loss than you do from a victory. And right now, they haven't lost a game yet. So their identity is play fast, score goals. What does it look like after you lose?
They were a couple minutes away from losing this week, I will say.
It took
So,
stoppage
and then
time,
they 3 goals.
two
But
stoppage time goals in order for them to walk out of there with a victory.
Yeah.
so,
Meanwhile, at the top of the table, Vancouver had a much more convincing victory over their Canadian counterparts and are sitting kind of firmly at the top of the table at the moment. It is, I mean, if you would have told me going into the 2025 season that Vancouver, San Diego, and San Jose would be the top three teams going in the West going into match day 4, I might have laughed in your face. That sounds pretty uninformed of you, but that is the reality that we are in at the moment.
the Whitecaps are a good, solid side. I'd say the only thing that really changed for them is they lost Fafa Picault to Inter Miami, of course, but they're still a very, very good team. So I think that injury to Ryan Gauld could be very important. Hopefully, it's nothing crazy and he can return. Hopefully after they play St. Louis, but we'll see.
um,
I need to go on this podcast real quick. Sorry, Jacob, and say that I need to show Sebastian Berhalter a little bit of love just because I've hated so much on his dad that I need to hold my hands up and say he's kind of a quality player.
He is.
He is a pretty integral part of Vancouver's success at the moment, and I could at least tell that in their game against Montreal. I thought he was very much in control of their midfield.
so my last question for you guys, and unfortunately, this is the headline of the year right now: LA Galaxy winless and 0-3 to start the season. Um, my question for you is, why has LA Galaxy fallen so hard? And to put your two soccer brains together and figure out what they need to do to just get their first points of the season.
I will say in the matchup against St. Louis, this game day could have gone very differently
Yeah.
because they had some chances to score early on. Granted, St. Louis did too. St. Louis came out very hot, but after that, LA Galaxy did grow into the game and established their style of play pretty decently. You know, they possessed the ball pretty well. They ended the match with more possession, but it's all about taking your chances, and Peck did fantastically to create and be dangerous. Same with Royce. Royce was pretty quiet at the beginning, but he looked so silky on the ball. He started making chances. He started making runs. People were losing him, and they would look pretty dangerous for a minute. But unfortunate for the LA Galaxy, they just couldn't maintain the pressure when they needed to. As soon as they hit the post on those first couple of chances, they needed to like just suffocate us in our own end and get that goal. And they let us grow into the game. We took our chances and we shut them up. And I will say it's extremely hard to score on St. Louis this year. So, that's not saying the craziest thing. They did lose. They are missing, two, I think their first and third best player in Ricky Puig and Paintsill. I'd say Peck is probably their second best, and Royce as their fourth best on his day. Depends on it. But interesting game overall. I think the LA Galaxy will grow into the match. They played a lot of youngsters in this game uh, that we saw a lot. And just we're looking at a lack of experience with this LA Galaxy side. At times, it looked like the back line was very out of order. And we got to remember that Garces, their center back, just was thrown into the LA Galaxy like during playoffs. So it's now starting to show like the kind of, I guess, discrepancy in their back line there. So I think they will get better and improve. I don't think they're anywhere close to the quality that they were last season. But I think for them, it's this season is all about staying in contention, and they need to start getting some wins on their plate.
Agreed. Jacob, if I had to answer your question in a word, I would say consistency is what will change things around for the Galaxy. I think that having a consistent lineup, I think that having consistent style of play will make a big difference for them. Of course, everyone knows that they are missing at least half the starters that was on their championship winning side. Okay, move on. That's the card you've been dealt. Here's the team that you have going into the season. All right, this first one didn't work. Let's move it. Let's tweak just a little bit and try and keep going from there. But I think they keep making major changes that are kind of hurting them. Like Garces started at center back against St. Louis City.
He's a
and I think
baller.
he played out of his mind. Garces was unbelievable. However, at the goalkeeper position, Mitrovic has played not great in the MLS matches. And I know that's a position that they're hoping to figure out. I think it's between John McCarthy. I'm pretty sure his name is.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just think that they could use a little bit of consistency. And their next opponent is the Portland Timbers, which I think is extremely favorable for the LA Galaxy. And I don't know. I think leaving in a team for 90 minutes could give them their best effort. But yeah, I've seen 4 or 5 different starting lineups, and since the season started for LA, I would like to just see them pick something and stick with it.
I think
I mean,
that
sorry.
comes
No, go ahead.
from like a lot of their match congestion, which I think my current solution for them at the moment is it's not the end of the world if you get knocked out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Like, it isn't a super sought after trophy over here in the States. Like, it is a fun one to play in and win and to like add to the trophy cabinet. But I think what's more important for them is probably the league, and then getting their confidence back, their mojo back going forward, because there is U.S. Open Cup that is a big deal. Eventually, getting back into the playoffs is a goal for them so that they can actually defend their title. So I wouldn't be, if I were a LA Galaxy fan, I wouldn't be upset if we got knocked out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
This is a tough period for LA Galaxy fans because you got to remember that up until last season, LA Galaxy's been poor for quite some time. Missed out on the playoffs since the departure of Zlatan. We're just trying to figure out a new identity, eventually get Ricky Puig and find a new style, a new form of getting games across the line and winning games. We saw that at the end of last season, but just seeing this LA Galaxy form is just it's scary that LA Galaxy will fall back into that same form that we've seen this past decade.
I gotta be honest. From the outside looking in, if I don't feel too worried about the Galaxy being unsuccessful, I think they will turn things around. But like you said, they're missing 2 of their best players. They are just coming off of winning the championship, so they have a target on their back. They're dealing with all these other problems on the field. I think it's going to take just a little bit of time for them. I won't excuse Royce's lack of desire that he exhibits on the field. Taylor Twellman pointed this out on X after the game. I mean, as a St. Louis City fan, I feel so good that we did not end up with Marco Royce. I mean, I hate to say it like that. Like, it sounds so kind of like black and white, but I'll say it like this. I am very, very glad that we have Marcel Hartel and Cedric Teuchert instead. Okay, because those 2 guys are making a great impact against Marco Royce.
Speaking of Marcel Hartel, I think this brings us into our Goal of the Week nominations. If you want to be a part of, one, the nominations, and two, voting on these Goals of the Week, make sure you go follow us on Instagram at St. Louis City Boys. We post some submissions from fans, some of our own submissions as well, and then we throw a poll up so that you guys can vote on it. So, first nomination is the Paul Rothrock Seattle Sounders 25-yard bottom corner rocket.
Paul Roth Rocket.
I really dig that nickname, Grayson.
That's pretty hard.
Little
Pretty
upset
hard.
I didn't come up with it. That goes hard. That is currently sitting on 0 votes, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's a banger. It's a banger.
It is.
Moving into Colorado, the Navarro chip against Austin FC is number 2, and that has 2 votes. And Roth Rockets got 0.
Listen,
People must love a chip.
the chips are clean. It's a decent chip. A nonchalant chip looks like that. I think there's a different level for chip goals that we haven't seen yet. So
To be fair, this was a tough week to pull goals from. There weren't a lot of crazy, miraculous goals like there were in match week 2 that we went over last week. Anyways, moving into FC Cincinnati, Kubo capping off a brilliant counterattack. That is sitting on 1 point. Then we've got the goal Grayson referenced for Philadelphia Union, the assist from Indiana Vasilev back to Lukic, who hits it off the post, always rising into the back of the net. That is sitting on no votes.
I'll go vote.
Crazy. And then the winner and also number 5 with 5 votes, Marcel Hartel of St. Louis City, finishing off the counter with a bar down finish.
It had to be.
So, match week 3, goal of the week winner is Marcel Hartel. Congratulations. Round of applause. It makes total sense that most of our fans are St. Louis City fans, and this is the goal that they would vote for.
Marcel,
bias
text
at
us.
all.
Text us so you can pick up your prize.
It's knuckle bump. But if you guys have any other notes, let's talk about them. If not, I will rip an outro.
Another good week for MLS. I'm loving it. So it's going to be a good season. So
I'm just going to say tune in for us next Monday night because we're always live Monday nights recapping the MLS match days. It's a very, very exciting time to be an MLS fan. So thank you all for joining us and being a part of Matchday 3.
Yep, next week it will just be Ethan and Grayson on the Matchday recap because I will be somewhere traveling across the middle of the country moving back to St. Louis. So hopefully I have all of the faith in the world that the boys will hold it down. So I'm going to rip an outro because it'll be the last time I can do so for probably a week and a half. So with that being said, you've been watching on YouTube. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, like the live, go watch our other stuff. It's dope. If you are listening to this on Spotify a day later, make sure you follow, rate 5 stars, and all of our socials are listed in the description below. Make sure you go follow those. And most importantly, do not forget to tell your mother you love her. Peace.